We're relaxing here in the library with two of the most interesting people in show business today, Rex Reed and Patty Duke. And I don't think either one of them need much introduction, but Rex, as you know, is one of the most controversial, interesting, and important, I think, critics of the day, who very recently has gotten involved in the other side of the business, starring in Myra Breckinridge. And I'd like to start things off here by reading a little excerpt from Rex's new book, Conversations in the Raw, which is from his interview with Patty Duke, where Rex says...
Okay, Rex.
She does come on like a pint-sized Jimmy Cagney.
Nice.
But stick around. But stick around, you can hear the heartbeats. It's the only way people will listen. When she was a kid, all her interviews were conducted on sheets of mimeographed paper with stock answers. If anyone asked how it felt to be a child star, she would turn to answer number 40. Now, I suspect, knowing how Rex works, that when Rex interviewed you, you probably...
Now she writes all the questions.
and the answers. Well, it's interesting to have both of you here this evening at the same time, because Patty has been in the business since, how old were you when you first...
7.
7 years old.
It'll be
Really,
16
a
years,
lifetime.
The end of this week.
Incredible. And Rex, of course, established himself as a critic and now finds himself on the other side of the camera. And what is that like?
Yeah.
Are you wondering about the reviews of the film?
Well,
Personal
mine
reviews?
will be... I'm wondering what mine's going to be.
That's what I meant.
Smashing.
Everybody gets a...
I'm thinking of doing a whole review and only talking about myself.
Well, there have been a lot of rumors that, that one of the motivations in getting into this thing was the chance to really do a review, possibly a book about Myra Breckinridge, and you think there may be a book in it?
Oh, there's a book in it. I don't know whether I'm going to write it or not. No, there's a book in it, but I don't know. I feel like I'm privy to such confidential information about the picture that it might be a little bit like blowing the whistle on everybody. What are you laughing at?
Oh. That's never been one of his problems in the past.
I was never the subject before, though.
Yes?
Right.
You think it may be too self-revealing?
Oh, I'll tell anything about me, you know. I mean, that's the biggest problem they have with the whole movie is that I have such a big mouth that I tell everything. But, I'm just kind of worried about telling it about everybody else, you know.
Well, how did the other performers in the film feel about that, knowing, this double life that you live?
Just about every other day, Raquel Welch makes some kind of marvelous comment on the set, and then she always turns to me and says, "Don't print that the book." I might do a book, though.
I think it's going to be very difficult for you not to do it.
I think everybody's expecting one at this point.
Yes.
But the movie itself has been absolute chaos. I mean, it's...
Well, if you were going to pick one film, for this time, you really pick...
I guess so, because this movie kind of represents the last death rattle
of the old Hollywood.
I mean, the millions of dollars that are being pumped into this thing. One afternoon, we have a rather unusual director, to say the least, and he came to the set one day and says, "I don't feel like shooting anything today. I think I'm just going to shoot food." So they went out and they bought $2,000 worth of food for him to show on camera, and that's all we did that day. There are many, many days when one day I arrived on the set and I was told on the call sheet to report to stage 8, and I walked into stage 8 and the whole place was completely empty except for 2 extras who were sitting there, and one of the things I've learned in Hollywood is that extras are not called extras, they're called atmosphere. So, so the 2 atmospheres were sitting there. And one of them, I said, "Where is everybody?" And they said, "Oh, they didn't like it here. They decided to go away somewhere." I said, "Well, where did they go?" And they said, "I don't know." So I had to go to the production office and find out where everybody was. They were down on the Western Street, and they were shooting something else that wasn't even in the script. So every day you arrive and you don't know what you're going to say that day. Everything is written on the set. It's all improvised. Many, many times we get there and we don't get a shot before 4:30 in the afternoon. And then they wait until 7 or 8 at night when you have bags under your elbows to come in for the close-ups. It's just wild. I've never been involved in anything like it.
There's another curious parallel here. you did Valley of the Dolls. Sorry for mentioning it, but
Thank you. I accept your apology.
in amongst your excellent films, and somewhere in between there, and I'm sure. I think I know Patty well enough, and where she's at to. I think she'd agree with that. But now they're doing something, and that's also 20th century, isn't it? And now
They have a knack
they're
for that.
doing something
They have
else.
a suicide wish over there at that studio.
Well, a lot of studios do these days, but they're now planning a new Valley of the Dolls, which I'm sure you've heard about.
Yes.
Which sounds like I think it's beyond the Valley of the Dolls, right?
It's beyond all comprehension.
It's a sexploitation.
It has
film.
No, it isn't
nothing to
beyond
do with
comprehension
Valley
at
of the
all.
Dolls.
Make a bloody fortune.
Yeah.
And
See,
that's
that's the
exactly what
real.
they're going to do. They're not pouring any money into it. Russ Meyer's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be a skin flick.
But that's the real tragic thing about
Christmas.
Hollywood right now, is that people are so willing to jump on the bandwagon and do whatever they can to make money. Even though the people who are making the films don't believe in them, they'll do anything to make a buck because the movie business is in such a weird position.
One of the things that makes it particularly interesting and weird, and maybe offers some hope, is that the old formulas don't work anymore. The films this year that are making the money are not the pictures that they've done with the old formulas. It's
Yes,
the
but
unexpected
some-
things by independent producers.
Yes, but some of them are also very good, and I'm
That's
all
my
I'm-
point.
and I'm all for independent filmmaking. I think Patty just did a picture called Me Natalie, which was which I thought was an absolutely remarkable film. I mean, I thought it was honest and dear and moving, and I thought she was also wonderful in it. I think she should be nominated for an Academy Award this
I
year.
agree. Well, what is indeed interesting is that while the old Hollywood and the old formula concepts are doing something that seems to be a death rattle, that motion picture making has never been more inventive, never more exciting because of the new producers.
Yes, but the new producers don't want to work for studios. I mean, when you get to a big studio and you find out that you have to spend all this fantastic money that's not in your budget just on studio rental space and on technicians you don't need and dialogue people that you don't need and all kinds of people that you don't need, then suddenly your movie is a $6 million movie and all you wanted to do is grab a movie, you know. So that's why the smart people are making movies independently and then they're releasing them through film companies. Myra Breckenridge doesn't fall into any kind of sane category that I can think of. It's not an independent movie. It's not even a studio movie because the director isn't even listening to anybody at the studio. He's making his own movie.
Which nobody's sure about. Oh, I got to ask you what it's like to simply, and apart to all the other curious things about the film, what it's like to be the alter ego of Raquel Welch. In other words, I assume that everybody knows that Rex plays Raquel in another form. So to speak.
I don't think we look a thing alike.
I'm not going to even ask how they managed to come up with the casting.
No, I tell you something. When they originally approached me with the idea of doing this thing, personally, I liked the book. I thought it was a very interesting book. I thought it made a very interesting comment on the sexual identity crisis and so forth. But it was great for reading. I didn't necessarily want to play it. You know, I mean, you can do. Otherwise, it's the Christine Jorgensen story. You know,
Right.
so I wasn't about.
I understand they cast, didn't they? Weren't they not casting, but didn't they test some?
Oh, they were testing everybody from the drag queens to Anne Bancroft.
Now, just a second.
All
right,
ain't
we're gonna-
Annie Sullivan anymore.